This guy is walking alone, and that's why I think the Democrats are winning. The more he walks alone, and the more he's operating this kind of shutdown and this inability to compromise, the worse it's going to be for him, and the better it's going to be for the Democrats and for the unions.
There is, but they have to raise taxes. I mean, I know everyone's raise taxes, but the government ate up probably 20% of GDP in the 1990s.
Yeah.
I think it's at 17% today. Because people who make, and there's so much money in this, I know everybody's like, oh, $200,000 a year doesn't sound like that much money. And in the overall scheme of things, it's not. Because there's people in this country making billions of dollars every year. And what is that money going towards?
Yeah, and what they're doing
it's not going towards just
so what are you
running
saying?
businesses.
So what are you saying? What do you mean by the $200,000? Like we should...
You need to raise taxes on people. You need to come back with the inheritance tax and take the money when people die.
Well, but the inheritance tax is not going to get rid of all the state shortfalls in this country.
But it'll help. Look, every part of our government that is spending money on debt, you've been in business before, right?
Yes, I have. But
okay, did you finance your business with debt?
I mean, with some debt, yeah.
Some?
Yeah.
Did you want to leverage it a lot?
A lot.
Because the more you leverage it,
course.
the more fucked you are in the long term.
Right.
Because the interest rates goes up.
Of course it does.
The more debt
and the
you
cost of
accumulate,
money goes
you
up
can't
and all
just
of
keep
that.
printing it.
But the real issue here though is what is going to be a systemic change that is going to help each state. And now these state governments are operating on their own. And going after mandatory pay raises for civil service workers is fine if you sit down with those workers and you negotiate it rather than strong-arming them, because you're not going to get it otherwise. So it's not just raising taxes, it's cooperation across the board in many different...
No, look, to fix the economy, it's not just raising taxes.
Yeah.
Raising taxes is totally changing the financial system. It comes down to, if we're going to talk about economics, it all comes down to money and your rate of return. And if I can make a higher rate of return by playing financial games with it and betting on something, that's where I'm going to put my money.
And that's what...
And if I can only make 5% rate of return on manufacturing, guess who doesn't get the money? Manufacturing, which is what fucking employs people.
And that's the stimulus. I mean, that's the whole stimulus package, the whole idea of government and economic stimulus for the states, and what the Obama administration and others have done before. That's the kind of stimulus that they're doing.
The stimulus package that, by the way, that Boehner criticized there,
which created jobs and infrastructure,
and which they, of course, all voted for. That he puts totally on the Obama administration.
They're all band-aids on the overall problem.
So, but you picked $200,000, which seems to be the number.
Well, just because that's the number that gets bandied around.
Yeah.
All
but why? What I'm curious about is why. I want to get to the inheritance tax too, the death tax.
No, it's inheritance tax.
But why is it $200,000? Why was there never a discussion of why couldn't it be $400,000? Why was there no real negotiation on that? Because I thought from a political point of view, there's a winner for Democrats, first of all, to say, okay, you're right, you guys win, not $200,000. $350,000. You're right, I'm going to keep that. Now all of a sudden, so you're going to fight for people at $350,000. Oh, you don't like that? $450,000. I'll tell you what, $500,000 a year. Only people making $500,000 a year. How about that? That's still going to raise a lot of revenue.
Well, that's
right?
the question. I mean, there must the actuaries who attacked this probably did do some of that in form. I mean, I don't know that.
Maybe I think I just
don't ever think anybody who comes up with a political idea has done the research.
Right, that's what I mean.
No, but these numbers are 250, whatever the it's been. It's always been 200 in that range. It has to have been thought of that. Okay, there aren't enough people that make $500,000 a year to make it worth this kind of. I don't know. I'm now speaking. I'm just assuming. I don't think this was random, is what I mean.
Well, I don't know. I bet
it's random.
I bet it's
random. It was
random.
random in the sense that.
I mean, clearly, first of all, 200 is going to make you more than 350 or 400. Yes, no question. But 400 is going to make you a lot more than not doing it.
Of course not. No, I understand that.
And
but
400
I don't for a minute believe that 200 is just a random. I think that it is a number that was arrived at by people who were looking into taxation and to how.
No, it's not, because if it was a real number, it'd be like 211
okay,
and
so
like
it might be
$326.
$200. Of course,
Right.
but then they
It's
round.
because $200,000 sounds like a lot of money to people in most of the country.
It's families, isn't it? Families. It's not individuals, isn't it? Families.
It's families.
Yeah, it's families. It does, and that's why. Listen, it doesn't really matter whether it was random or not. What Ben's point is, it's certainly worth looking at because it makes a lot
was
of sense.
brief- it was
it also
briefly discussed.
makes great political sense, like you said, Ben. And that Democrats have a winning issue here. Say, okay, you're right. Maybe we are wanting to tax people too much at too low a rate, but we want to push it up higher. Just exactly what Ben said, and that does have political value.
And if that is a number, then that has been figured out by the smart guys doing the actuarial, then tell us that. I mean, that's not a secret.
Yeah.
Then tell us it. But they didn't, and I tend to agree with Wes that, or what I definitely agree with is that I'm not going to assume that those are some genius Poindexters in a room who figured that out.
Dude, the PowerPoint slide. We got to have it ready. What's the number? What sounds like a lot? 200.
I don't think it was that
That's
at all.
the
But I
number.
do think that it could have been $194,612, and they would have said 200. I mean, obviously they're going to put something in easier parlance for the people, but I don't think that it was just some random.
No,
number.
but I
They're
mean, with
sitting
guys making,
four people sitting
but
around
with so
them.
many guys making $642 million a year, I mean, you're going to get a ton of money from those guys, whether
Yeah.
it's 200 or 421,000.
And girls.
Right. Well, please. So I don't know. Now the inheritance tax. Before we
Yeah.
get off this topic, you're a little Newt Gingrichy on the inheritance tax.
I'm not Newt Gingrich. I just don't think that I think it's too easy a place to go on the amount of money that it would generate. I mean, I think that everything that I've read and learned about the inheritance tax, it sounds better. It is good political fodder, but it does not create. I mean, it's certainly not going to overcome any shortfalls in any government. But if you look at it as incremental, that everything is important, then yes, absolutely. But
Well,
I
it's going
don't
to get
think
you a lot more money than cutting home heating.
It probably will, but it does. It affects so few estates that so many people think that everybody who has a little bit of money and leaves it behind, or a lot of money and leaves it behind, is going to save.
The exemption is huge.
Is huge, and so few estates. I mean, there's so little. So few people are affected annually. So few people die. Yes, there are many, many wealthy people in America. There's some great fortunes, great family fortunes, great business fortunes, but they don't all die in the same year, and they're not all affected by the estate tax.